It's going to take me a few seconds. And now it should be in the correct mode.
It's in the thumbnail mode. So there we go.
Yep. Looks good.
No. Great. So, I'm going to jump right in and tell you a little bit about what's happening in Pittsburgh around precision medicine research and clinical implementation. And I think that there's some very exciting work that's being done right here in our city. I'm really excited to be a part of some of this work. And I think this partnership between Pitt CTSI and Duquesne is super exciting because I think it presents even more opportunities for cross collaboration across our institutions and hopefully contributing to advancing precision medicine. So my name is Dr. Mylynda Massart, and I'm in the Department of Family Medicine here at UPMC and the University of Pittsburgh, as well as the Clinical and Translational Science Institute. So let's start with just talking about what is precision medicine. Precision medicine is really a 365-degree approach to medical care. Its intent is to tailor decisions around a patient's individual characteristics. And these characteristics include everything from our genetics, our anatomy, our physiology, all of our environmental exposures, including social determinants of health, and our lifestyle choices, which all add up to contribute to our overall health, wellness, and disease. It is much more than just genetics, as I mentioned before, and many of you may have heard many different terms being used with the word ome at the very end: our exposome, our epigenome, our microbiome, our metabolome, our proteome, etc., in addition to our genome. This is really trying to capture all of those environmental exposures and everything that lines up and adds up to our overall health. As you can imagine, this is a lot of information to sort through. It is a lot of pieces of data to collect and capture and store and analyze and interpret to bring it all the way back to patient care. In order to do that, we really need to have collaborative stakeholders that are successfully working together to solve all of these types of challenges. I think Pittsburgh is a remarkable place because I think we really have the opportunity to do this. This is only 4 examples of some of the resources that we have in Pittsburgh. As you all know, there are so many more. And working in collaboration, we can really capture patient data. We have so many clinicians that are at the bedside implementing this work. Incredible research happening at so many campuses across our community, laboratories, biobanks, informatics research, our electronic health records, which are growing and expanding in their capacities every day, 2 amazing health systems, and then, of course, insurers, which allow us to capture payee data and outcomes data. Bringing this all together is really the perfect place to create solutions to the implementation of precision medicine. In order to do this successfully, we have to overcome many, many barriers around testing. There's issues with availability and access to testing, cost, reimbursement from insurance companies, slow data turnaround, and then really an understanding of how to implement those results on the clinical side with very few current clinical existing algorithms. We need more real-world randomized controlled trial data and outcomes and the value of some of these interventions. We need ongoing design for data management and development of decision support and point of care tools so that these things can be brought to the bedside and used at point of care. We have so much more research to do to understand all the different layers that are interacting and contributing to genotype and phenotype discovery. And we have a lot of education that needs to happen of our current and future clinicians and practitioners in order to integrate all of this into taking care of patients. And of course, all of this has to be done in the context of the ethical, legal, and social implications model, where we need to advance privacy laws, equity, incidental findings, and how to handle these from an ethical standpoint in decision-making and legal issues for protections. So today I just want to share a little bit of the highlights of some of the things that are happening at Pitt and UPMC in particular, since that's where I work. On the research side, we have our Clinical and Translational Science Institute, which is leading the All of Us Pennsylvania program and the Pitt Plus Me Discovery Biobank. The All of Us program is a national precision medicine research program, which Lori is going to tell you much more about when I'm done today. This was launched initially in 2015 in the conceptual stage, and then in 2018 nationally. We have partners all across the country who are trying to work together to recruit over 1 million diverse individuals who will donate and dedicate their data to science and research so that we can better capture and understand all of this information and bring it back to the bedside. Locally, we have our Pitt Plus Me Discovery Biobank, which is for Pitt investigators and hopefully in the near future to collaborate with Duquesne investigators as well. This is a genomics biobank where we are capturing patient data and offering the elective return of pharmacogenomics results back to the electronic health record to allow clinicians to use this information for prescribing decision-making on their patients. This is just a picture of some of our genomics here at our Genome Center for both our pharmacogenomics and our sequencers. This partnership is to build a biobank and the data infrastructure to capture data from UPMC patients and then store this for investigators to do precision medicine research while collaborating to return results back to the UPMC electronic health record so that clinicians can use this to take care of patients. As we have now launched our recruitment, we are starting to scale to include patients across the lifespan. We're hoping in the near future to partner with the Pittsburgh study to include children and to partner with the Alzheimer's disease research to include older adults with cognitive decline. We've already launched a partnership with anesthesiology and perioperative medicine and also collected COVID-19 samples during the pandemic. At our local Institute for Precision Medicine, we focus a lot on partnerships and commercializations, research infrastructure, translational research, clinical implementation, and education and outreach across Pitt and UPMC. On the diagnostic side, we have a world-class genome center that was launched in 2018. It's a massive facility here located in Pittsburgh that is CAP and CLIA certified to do all sorts of genomics, everywhere from our pharmacogenomics to clinical whole genome and whole exome sequencing, and even single-cell sequencing in the field of oncology. On the clinical side, we launched our primary care precision medicine clinic here at UPMC in 2019 in order to see patients in the primary care sector who needed assistance with genetic conditions and genetic testing, as well as to advance the implementation of precision medicine technologies here at UPMC and continue genomics education of clinicians across the UPMC health system. We see patients from all scopes of genetics, anywhere from education and validation of direct-to-consumer testing, caring for patients with known chronic genetic conditions, seeking consultations for pharmacogenomics in terms of the genetics of prescribing. We're able to help support patients with return of results from national studies like the All of Us Pennsylvania study, as well as consultations from primary care providers and specialists in assisting in counseling patients and choosing the proper genetic testing that is appropriate for their workup, and then filtering genetic services to our downstream genetic specialists. In our clinic, we're able to do all types of genomics, including pharmacogenomics, carrier screening, next-generation sequencing, and panel testing to assist with complex disease risk assessment, test interpretation, develop management plans, take on challenging cases, and then, as mentioned before, integrate genomics into primary care. Again, on the clinical side, since 2015, we've had a implementation study launched in our cath lab through Dr. Phil Empey's team. Pharmacogenomics is really one of the most developed and advanced of all of our precision medicine technologies. It has known biology, limited pathways, and known number of targets. It's a very easily measured phenotype in terms of whether medications work or do not work, or whether someone has an adverse reaction or not. The genetic variants are common. In fact, about 95% of the population has at least one or more variant in a pharmacogene impacting how we metabolize medication. And the testing is low cost, feasible, and has very few ethical concerns associated. But one of the most important reasons that this is as advanced as it is that prescribing is costing us way too much money in this country, and trial and error prescribing is essentially bankrupting the healthcare system. So if we can do better and be more precise in our prescribing, not only will we have better outcomes for patients, but we will share tremendous cost savings. This particular research study that has been in place here at the UPMC Cath Lab is around a medicine called clopidogrel. Its common name is called Plavix. Many of you have probably heard of it. It's an antiplatelet drug, meaning it blocks platelets from sticking together and forming clots. This is really, really important in treating patients who have clotting conditions or in patients who have gone to the cath lab and had an angiogram with a stent placed. What you don't want to happen is after their stent is placed for them to form new clots with their platelets and clot off that stent, which would result in a second event or even death. It turns out that when clopidogrel metabolism was studied, that this medication has to be activated through an enzyme called CYP2C19 from its inactive prodrug state to its active drug state, where it can go and do its role in terms of inhibiting platelets. Research actually showed that about 20 to 30% of the population carry single nucleotide polymorphisms in the CYP2C19 gene, where they are unable to effectively activate the inactive prodrug to the active form, which means no matter how much medication you are giving them, it is never going to work or be effective. In this particular case, you wouldn't actually know that because we don't have a clinical laboratory test that is checking the platelet blocking activity of the medication. Instead, you would find this out when someone fails their medication and has that second event. It turned out that this was so significant that the FDA placed a black box warning in 2016 on the medication to consider pharmacogenomic testing, as if you have one mutated allele, you will have a 55% increased risk of death, heart attack, and stroke, and threefold increased risk of stent thrombosis. And if you have two non-functioning alleles, you have an almost fourfold increased risk of death, heart attack, and stroke. This is tremendously significant. And this is information that if you could be empowered with this ahead of time, you could prevent that negative outcome. There's a national study called Precise RX that is happening across the country that Pitt and UPMC were able to join. And patients who come into the cath lab since the study was launched are genotyped for this particular pharmacogene. And before they are discharged home, we know if they are a normal metabolizer, intermediate metabolizer, or a poor metabolizer for the CYP2C19 enzyme, and whether they are effectively converting clopidogrel prodrug to the active form that is needed in the body to do its function. It turns out that if you are an intermediate or a poor metabolizer, the national guideline recommendation is to change medication to one of the cousin drugs that does not require activation by this enzyme. However, until recently, those drugs were not generic, whereas clopidogrel was generic. And so you wouldn't want to automatically switch all patients over to a non-generic drug, which is significantly more costly. But instead, if you can do a low-cost, readily turnaround test and then stratify patients to the right medication for the right patient for the right genetics. Data has been aggregated across the country for all of the studies that have participated in this and have shown that there is significant reduction in morbidity and mortality in patients who are genotyped and switched to the correct medication compared to those that are not genotyped, or those who were genotyped but their clinician did not make the recommended change and continued them on the ineffective medication. On the education side, we are working as a group collaboratively to integrate genomics testing across the different healthcare subspecialties here at Pitt and UPMC, as well as nationally through a program developed by Dr. Empey, originally to teach pharmacogenomics to pharmacists. We've now expanded this to teach precision medicine to primary care providers, and currently have funding to develop a whole genome sequencing course to teach all key opinion leaders and clinicians how to integrate whole genome sequencing into clinical care. This is a very exciting educational platform and very unique in that it is participatory in nature, meaning that the learners have an opportunity to have their own genetics tested, and then they can, in a de-identified way, integrate their data back into the learning platform. And then all of the exercises that we do during the course, they're actually doing on their own data and learning about themselves as we go through this course. So this was just a really rapid tour to tell you a little bit about what type of precision medicine work is happening here in the Pittsburgh community. And this is just my last slide, which is sharing my reasons for what precision medicine means to me. And ultimately, of course, it is better health for my family and for my children. So thank you very much. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Lori.
Thanks, Dr. Massart. I appreciate it. I think you have to stop sharing. Oh, great. Thank you so much. So what I want to say today is that I'm really grateful to be here with you at Duquesne University. I am a proud graduate of the I did graduate school at Duquesne, and I received a master's degree in leadership. And one of the things that we really learned was about servant leadership. And that is because that is the mission at Duquesne, is to serve. We serve no matter what level that we're in. And I learned how to serve as a leader. And I'm really proud now to be part of the leadership team at the All of Us Pennsylvania Research Program. So really excited to be here. And thank you, Dr. Massart, for sharing so much. Talk about a servant leader. Dr. Massart is always willing to help and share her information, and we appreciate it. I want to share something really specific today with you that I think as students, you'll see the applicability of this when you go out into the workforce, whatever it is, the role that you do. And that is about evidence-based practice in research. So anytime you do something that is evidence-based, there's really a cycle of how you go about it. And it starts with assessing. And in this little picture, it says ask a question. So you're assessing and you're learning and you're implementing and then you're evaluating. Does it work? What am I hearing? What can I do better? How can I go back to the beginning and ask questions again? So that's where this cycle in various ways is going to be applicable no matter what kind of job you have at some point. So just think about that. You know, it can be sometimes really enticing to just jump right in and start with the implementation phase, but always do a little bit of assessment no matter what. And I'll show you how it works really well for the All of Us research program. So my team is the engagement team. Our job is to offer and inform the All of Us Pennsylvania Research Program. So that is what we want to do. We care about the mission. Dr. Massart explained a little bit about the importance of precision medicine. If you yourself have not experienced this, maybe you care about somebody who's maybe had some trouble getting to the right diagnosis, or maybe had some trouble getting to the right treatment for some health condition that they're facing. And, you know, we wonder, gosh, we can do so much these days. Why can't we just get right to the precise treatment that people need? And why do we get sick differently? And why do we get better differently? And all of these kinds of questions. And so as an engagement team member, depending on who I'm working with, I might start anywhere in that cycle and it won't be so very linear. So in other words, when I am working with community partners, individuals who might be interested in participating in our research program, other physicians that I work with, or other universities that I work with, I am constantly evaluating what is it that they need to know? What is it that they need from me? I'm thinking about that today while I talk to you. What is it that you need? How can I get you to understand the importance of precision medicine and the All of Us research program with what matters to you? Now, I can't see you. We're not live. I don't get to talk to you in person. But if we were, I would be asking you some questions, and then I would take that feedback and cycle it back into exactly how I share later. But short of that, I will think about what I think might be really important to you. And I want to say that as university students, you are realizing you're coming out of your high schools or your communities, and you're exposed to people from a variety of areas, and you realize that one size does not fit all. And so that's what I want to say about engagement. One size does not fit all. And in fact, there is evidence that shows that community-based participatory research is much more powerful than really a top-down or investigator-based research. So what I want to say about that is that when investigators have a question and want to understand more about their community, they also do the assessment that I just talked about. And why do they do that? They do that because they feel, oops, showing you the wrong thing, because they really feel a moral obligation. They feel like it's fair, it's respectful. They get better buy-in from the communities. They can get community leaders and patients to understand what they're doing. There are ethics behind this. We won't go into a lot of detail here about some of the transgressions that have occurred with health research in the past, but there have been really big mistakes, really big short-sighted shortcomings, and we're all making up for them and trying to do better. And so one of the things that is forefront in our mind are ethics. What can we do to conduct our research in an ethical manner? Also transparency. And then there was a bonus outcome in the literature that I looked at, and I'll share my sources with you later, but in the literature that I looked at, there was really a bonus outcome for our researchers, our research investigators, and that was that they learned how to listen to community members. That is not typically something that researchers would need to do. Typically, researchers have a question and an implementation, and they go about it, and all of the assessment they're doing is about their research implementation, not about their collaboration with communities. And so researchers actually learned through this process of community-based participatory research that they really liked listening to their community, and the community had really wise pearls that they were able to use to really elevate the quality of the research they were doing. Now, why would a community member want to participate? What's their rationale? Well, social justice, and they want to ask meaningful questions and get them answered, hopefully. They want to develop effective solutions. And I want to ask you, what else? What's missing? Look at my list. It's pretty short on the community side. And I wanted to point out, I thought this was really profound. When I did my literature search for evidence-based community engagement, I found that most of the evidence was written from the perspective of the investigators. That right there amplifies the problem. Why wasn't it written from the perspective? Why couldn't I find enough literature to give a really long list of the community members' goals? It just goes to show we still have a long way to go. So ultimately, what we're hoping to do when we conduct health research is to improve the health outcomes. And we know that there are a lot of factors that go into somebody's health. We know that there are physical and environmental factors. There's also personal behaviors, social and economic factors, those social determinants of health. We really know that those social determinants of health are a very powerful element of somebody's health. And so we're paying a lot more attention to that. And as students at Duquesne, I know as a student there myself, my daughters are graduates of Duquesne, I know that you are really exposed to and expected to uplift social justice and uplift our social determinants of health and do a really good job at bridging community service. I know that. And so I want you to think about some of the groups that you might work with, some of the volunteer work you do, or some of the elements you're learning in your classes, or maybe it's the community that you came from, and how indeed social determinants of health change the health outcomes and what we can do in precision medicine to know that the same treatment doesn't work in one part of the town or one part of the country or one age group or even one sex group, male or female. We know that when somebody has something that is different, and we are all different, we are each different, we will respond differently. And so we want to know a whole lot more about that. There's been a major paradigm shift, all right? So I really want you to look at this continuum here. On the first side, where we have the low community involvement, it's investigator-driven research. And way on the other side, this is kind of our ideal of community-driven research. We're not quite there yet, but it's really taking us from the idea of doing something to you, and then these boxes in the middle, doing something with you, and then that last box, doing something from you as it relates to community involvement in health research. Really important paradigm shift, and really important. I think we're going to see a whole lot more of this when it comes to evidence-based engagement and how do we engage our communities? How do we engage our partners? So why don't we all do it this way? Why aren't we already at that shift? Why aren't we there? Because it's hard. It takes longer. It's unpredictable. It's slower. It's not steady. It may go in fits and starts. And so that's part of the reason that we don't do it that way yet, but we're trying to get better at it. And the All of Us research program one of the first things that we do is take a look at our mission. And our mission is to be inclusive and to be diverse and to reflect the members of our communities throughout the country. So Dr. Massart talked about what the precision medicine looks like, but I just want to explain it maybe in a little broader sense here. And that is that we are talking about a program that is funded by the National Institutes of Health. So that's funded by U.S. taxpayer dollars. And it spans out across the country. And there will be 1 million individuals sharing their data into this repository that researchers will be allowed to use. 1 million people, that's really powerful. 1 million people from throughout the country who are recruited by people like me who care a lot about diversity in research and go way outside the box to try and include individuals who are historically underrepresented in biomedical research. And we do that because maybe part of the reason that a medical treatment doesn't work for me or that I get sick or get better differently from someone else is that the research that my physicians had access to make a decision about my plan of care, maybe there was nobody like me in that research program. And so maybe it just doesn't match me. So we try to do much, much better when it comes to that with the All of Us research program. We started in 2018. The University of Pittsburgh was the first site in the country. We actually enrolled the first participant, and we continue today, and we will continue for at least 10 years into the future. And when I'll share some details about what it looks like to participate, but when I ask you to visualize what 1 million pieces of data looks like, I want you to think about a jigsaw puzzle. So it might take a long time to put together a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, maybe a 5,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. If you had 1 million pieces, think of the profound image you could complete with 1 million pieces in the jigsaw puzzle. And just like with a jigsaw puzzle, our research investigators can use that data over and over and over and answer so many different questions. And the really cool thing is that the jigsaw puzzle pieces that belong to us are de-identified from the researchers. So they don't need to know that Lori's in the research program. They're just looking at my data and they can find all kinds of powerful answers. And they can ask all kinds of really interesting questions we can't even think of yet today. So it's a very cool and novel approach to research. So how do we do it differently when it comes to participatory-based research? So we have community resident team members. So we have sites, and we're in the state of Pennsylvania. We're headquartered out of the University of Pittsburgh, but we're responsible for this entire state. This is not All of Us Pittsburgh. This is All of Us Pennsylvania. And so we have staff members who do engagement all throughout the area. We have a permanent team in Erie, a permanent team in Altoona. And if you're not from the area, those towns are about 2 hours away from us here in Pittsburgh. Erie is east, Altoona is north, and then they fan out about 2 hours from where their office is so that they can reach more members of their community. So people who want to participate in the All of Us research program don't have to come to Pittsburgh. They don't have to come to Oakland. They can stay in their community and we will go to them. We participate in community events. We want to get to know what our community needs. What do they like? Where do they go? What is powerful for our community? And we want to be there so that we can offer this program and answer questions to help people make an informed decision about whether they might want to participate in the All of Us research program. We do go to community media programs, and you can see the one is Erie's talk show station. So this is our engagement team member, Emmy, and really cool. So Emmy lives in Erie, so she was on the radio and she went into the station, and Dr. Massart, who you just heard from earlier, was also on that radio show with Emmy. So she was able to do it remotely, but we were able to still reach out to the Erie community with our person on the ground. We also provide all kinds of community support. There's one photo of one of our team members who was doing a community cleanup day, and another one who was helping individuals get their grocery bags from a food pantry out into their car. So we do what we need to do to learn about our community members. We have a juxtaposition though. So the NIH, which is the National Institutes of Health, National Institutes of Health, the NIH is asking us to bridge the gaps between research and community. And we take that mission very, very seriously. However, the All of Us Pennsylvania experience also asks us to get out into the community. And so we have a van that goes out into the community with our team members and with our equipment so that we can complete enrollments for people who want to be in this research program, and they don't have to come to Pittsburgh. I'm so sorry. All of my Teams notifications are coming up, even though I thought I turned it off. So there's this juxtaposition of, we're trying to balance this all the time, trying to get out to the community, but also trying to get to know the community. So it just takes time. And we are able to do that because we do have our teams on the ground. And we've learned a lot along the way. We have learned that there are some best practices of things we can do a whole lot better than we used to do them. One of them is learning about our community. So that assessment piece, learning and listening and getting to know it. We can only do that when we're on the ground and when we're identifying our community leaders. We do that when we ask, listen, learn, and observe. We do that when we collaborate with our community leaders, and we don't go in and do to them. We do this research with them. Hopefully someday we'll get to the point where we can do the research that they want from them. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I tell you about some of the research opportunities that are available in the All of Us research program. We implement community outreach plans, and we're asking and listening and learning and observing once again, because we're out in the community now. We've gone from talking to our community leaders and building bridges out to our communities themselves, when we're doing the community cleanup or when we're carrying the groceries out to the trunk after a food pantry pickup. So we're learning what is important to the people that we are talking with. And then we assess our next step. What makes sense? And then we implement them, and then we evaluate our effectiveness. And then when we've done that, we decide, will we revise what we've done? Will we make adjustments? Will we repeat it? Did we hit the nail on the head? Did we hit that mark the first time and we're going to replicate that again? Or are we going to retreat and say, this is not the time for us to be in this community. This is not the time for us to bring the All of Us research program to this community. We're just going to retreat, and we'll stay in touch with our community leaders, and we'll come back at another time. Our community partners are so very important to us, and we really treasure these relationships, and we take the time when we're building that bridge. We take the time to get to know our community partners, and some of them are just really powerful friends and allies to us. So when we've got a really great community partner, we check to see, what is the buy-in? Will they send emails to people that they work with to let them know about the All of Us research program? Because they already have credibility with their community members. Their community members do not know me. I have no credibility or legitimacy with their community members, but our leaders do. And in one of these pictures, you see a gentleman wearing the All of Us research program t-shirt, the gray t-shirt. He's a community leader. He's not an employee. He finds so much value in the opportunity for the All of Us research program to allow his community to give voice to a national research program that he wanted to wear the t-shirt. So that was a whole lot of fun and we continue to work with his group today. Sometimes our community partners will help us by hanging posters in their area or distributing door hangers. We do a lot of work with multi-unit housing locations where individuals who have mobility difficulties or who are older adults will live and they can't always get out. So we'll bring the program to them, and our community partners will take our door hangers and place them on the door so that our residents in those homes will know that we're going to be on site and they can come learn about the program. And then if we can bring our team out to do an enrollment, then they can actually join the research program right there in their home community, in their home building. And our good partners also help to support access to the audience. And I didn't put on here, but I should have, and I'm going to revise this to say our good community partners also assess and give us feedback. They evaluate and give us feedback. They let us know, did this work? Did we hit the nail on the head, or did we want to revise a little bit? They also will help us with additional partner introductions and say, oh, Laura, you've got to meet this other person. What's really important for us to do when we're working with community members, remember that diagram in the beginning when I said engagement is not linear? Well, engagement team members have to be ultra flexible. We just never really know what's going to come next. What we do know is what our mission is, what our purpose is, and the importance of this health research program. And so we have to be tremendously flexible on how we approach our next steps and what it is that our community partners need from us and our community members need from us. So with all this being said, why is it so much work for us to get people to join research programs? Why don't people join research programs? Why does the NIH even need to have bridges between research investigators and communities? Why don't people just come, build it, and they will come? If you know that line from an old movie. Well, people might not join a research program because they don't know about it. They might be skeptical and distrust medical research. There might be harm from assumptions. People might be worried about what you might assume. It might be really inconvenient. I talked about people not needing to come to Pittsburgh for this program. If somebody lives 2 or 3 or 4 hours away from the University of Pittsburgh, they are not going to come to join a research program. Maybe their doctor doesn't know about it, or they're not encouraging of research because they don't know about it or they don't understand the details. So maybe that's why. Maybe the patient doesn't meet the eligibility criteria. And that's a really interesting point that I want to say is different about the All of Us research program. So I've worked on research studies before where it was more traditional research. There was one disease that was being studied with a set of interventions that were being evaluated. So there was really strict eligibility criteria. Only a small finite group of people could actually participate in it and give the information. And remember, I said then that information, those results are taken and applied widely to the audience, maybe to me when nobody like me was in that research program. The All of Us research program is different, and I will talk about the eligibility criteria in a minute. However, we allow just about everybody as long as they meet age criteria. So if an individual is 18 or above, they can join the All of Us research program. There's no upper age limit there. That's different compared to other research programs that often have an upper age limit. There's a lot of reasons for that, but who uses a lot of the healthcare in our country, in our world? It's older adults, but sometimes they don't get to participate in the research program for a variety of reasons. Their data is left out. With the All of Us program, they're welcome to participate. It's my understanding that one of our oldest participants is 100, joined the program when she was 99 and had a birthday after that. So there is no upper age cutoff. The individual needs to live in the United States. There's no citizenship question. We don't even ask about that, but we do want to have the person live in the U.S. so that we can get a look at their health records, their electronic health records. They must be not currently incarcerated because that's a vulnerable population. Remember when I said there were some transgressions that were done to groups of people? Incarcerated individuals were one of them, and they were pressured into participating in research and not given an easy way to get out. And so they were very confined, and they are now a vulnerable population that is protected, and we are not allowed to go into prisons or jails and recruit individuals to be in our research program. The person also needs to be able to give consent. They can't have a cognitive impairment that would prevent them from understanding, and that is because of all of those ethics and the transparency. We absolutely have to be sure that everything we know about this research program that is written in our consent form, which is the permission form that individuals sign when they join a research program, it has to be understood by the person who's reading it. If they can't understand it, then they can't really consent to be in the program, and we have tricked them, and we will not do that. So the individual has to be able to give consent to be in the program. So how are we different? Well, we're different because we're collectively trying to improve the health of your community, every community throughout this country. The individuals in our program are called participants. They are not patients. They don't have to be sick with one disease or disorder. Anyone can join. All of Us research program is different because we are out in community events, doing cleanups, carrying grocery bags to the trunk without even talking to those people about the All of Us research program. We go out and we get to serve. And it's been a really powerful collaboration between us and some of our partners. And I loved it that my time at Duquesne taught me how to be a servant leader because I see those opportunities, and it's really neat to work for a job all day, every day that allows and celebrates that servant attitude. We're also different because we do community locations. Not all research programs are able to take their show on the road and enroll individuals out in the communities, but the All of Us research program can. We call those pop-ups, and we take them out to the communities. And we are reflective of the U.S. population and the Pennsylvania population. That doesn't mean we're representative. It's not always a biostatistical, one-to-one one-to-one relationship, but we do try to be reflective, and we take our mission for diversity and inclusion very seriously. And we try very, very hard to get out into areas where individuals have not been welcomed into research programs before. So I want to share a video with you why diversity is important. And this video is it's about 2 or 3 minutes long, and it is spoken by the recently retired director of the National Institutes of Health, Dr. Francis Collins. He went on to work on another health program after serving through 4 presidential administrations as the NIH director. And I think that he explains it, he and his colleagues, very powerfully, and so I want to share this with you.
So much of what we've done in medicine over the years has not really taken into account individual differences, and this is an opportunity to be part of something historic.
Most studies and most clinical trials have always been with the average white male. So as we start thinking about this in the context of building trust, I think we get back that trust by involving the community. Not saying you come to us or we'll just do things to you. We're going to do things with you, and in fact, allow that information to be accessible to you, the individual.
You're going to have some individuals that are going to say, yes, good, we're getting in on the ground level of a study. And then you're going to have those that have some trepidations about it. My thing is to bring them aboard and let them know that this is for the greater good for them. We have input, and without input, there's no buy-in. And without buy-in, there's no commitment. Without commitment, there's no success.
Tuskegee happened. We're not trying to hide that or sweep it under the rug, but communities of color will be at a disadvantage if we do not find ways to get by that, whether the focus is asthma, whether the focus is infant mortality, whether the focus is diabetes, cancer, or heart disease. Communities of color are disproportionately impacted by them.
It has always been playing catch up to make sure that they're even getting access, much less minimum service. Low income, underserved, and people of color are oftentimes very generous in giving something if they understand it. And they always do so with the intention that knowing this is not just about me, this is not just even about my family, it is about helping the community down the road.
Being able to bring the Asian American population who is never at the table, not only to contribute to science, but to contribute to our ability to understand the nuances within those populations. I think it will provide a huge national data set so we can ask questions and make discoveries about healthcare that will better their own personal health and those of the communities that they are part of.
Diversity strengthens the science. It could bridge some civil rights issues and inequities in healthcare across all races and ethnicities and culture.
As a community of color, underrepresented, hidden, underserved, what would happen if you were not at the table? It is an issue of equity, and it's an issue of justice as well.
It is important for minorities to be a part of this, or we will again be left with medications that are created for really other populations. I'm hopeful that we will be overwhelmed with folk.
So much of what we...
So I think that that team very eloquently shares why it's important for us to welcome everyone. And if you are unfamiliar with what the one physician was talking about regarding Tuskegee, when he said Tuskegee happened, we aren't trying to sweep it under the rug. You can go and look up more information about it, but essentially it was a terrible and long-term transgression against a group of poor Southern African-American men who were vulnerable and they were ill with syphilis. And instead of treating them for their syphilis, they were allowed to continue to be ill so that researchers could see what would happen as it advanced. That's beyond a thumbnail sketch. That's a pencil point sketch of what happened, and it was wrong. And so now we have to overcome the suspicion and skepticism that all researchers are going to trick people. And the All of Us Research program tries to be really transparent about not doing that. I welcome questions. I love it when I get a question I haven't been asked before, and then I can text Dr. Massart and ask her to help me answer the question if I can't find the information. But no question is off limits. I welcome every question from every audience that I speak with. And I also want to say that because we've worked really hard to include individuals from throughout the Pennsylvania area, and particularly those who are older adults, we have learned that we haven't done as good of a job at including our younger adults, and that our college friends, like you at Duquesne, can't always get over to Oakland to participate. Even though it's just a bus ride away, you'd have to think about it. You'd have to want to do it. You'd have to know about it. And maybe you didn't even know about the All of Us research program. So in collaboration with your leaders at Duquesne, we're bringing our enrollment team onto campus so that if you want to participate, you can. If you care about the future of health and you want to give voice to it, here's an easy opportunity for you to do that. If you want to learn more about it so you can make your decision, you can actually scan this QR code, or you can visit our website to learn more about it. And there is no coercion at all. If you decide that you want to be in this research program and you open up the materials and you read that consent form and you get to the end of it and think, I don't think I want to do this, you just don't consent and you're not in the program. So there's no obligation and nobody will come in and track you down for that. So you can make a decision with all of the information. We're bringing our teams on campus to the Power Center on this coming Friday, March 18th, all day, 8:30 to 2. And then on Tuesday, April 12th, we'll be over in the Union Building in room 613. You can either scan the QR code or click that link just to go to the Duquesne University site and take a look at it. This site is not open to the public, so you won't see it if you go to our regular website, because the Duquesne University link is private just for you all here. And I will be at the Union set up with a table tomorrow. I will have colleagues there on Wednesday and Thursday. We welcome you to stop by and ask us questions. You may have seen some information out and about on campus. So we certainly welcome questions. We welcome you if you want to participate. Individuals who do participate, not only do you complete your consent forms, you complete some surveys. That takes about an hour, and that really helps our researchers understand more that's coming from you directly. But then for about a half an hour, then we do some body measurements and we do a blood draw and a urine sample. And then all of that information, your consent to share your health records, your answers to your surveys, and your biological data is all de-identified. And it's stored in safe databases. I don't have it. I can't see it. Your professors can't see it. I won't be sharing that information with anybody. I wouldn't even know that it was you. But our researchers look at it in this jigsaw puzzle box, and then they can tie those things together without ever knowing exactly who participated. But we need more youth voice, so we brought the program to your campus to make it easier and more convenient for you to participate. This is what we do with all of our community partners. We take our team to the community to make it easier for people to participate. When individuals are done with their appointment, like I said, one's on the 18th and one's on April 12th, they get a $25 gift card. And that's to say thank you for your time. We can't complete research if we don't have volunteers. We know that. And so we give people $25 gift card to say thank you for your time. So the sources that I used to talk about the evidence-based engagement are right here. There were actually a whole lot of other sources, but I chose not to necessarily use some of the material that I learned from them. This was really the power and the impetus of what I shared with you. My contact information is here. I thank you so much for having me, and I wish you all the very best. You can reach out to me by email. You can use my office phone or my cell phone. I will be on campus tomorrow. Our team will be there on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at the Union tabling at lunchtime-ish. And on Friday, we'll be at the Power Center, and we'll have people set up to table then as well. Happy to answer your questions. I would recommend that if you do think that you would like to participate in this National Precision Medicine Program, that you go ahead and start completing your consents and surveys ahead of time. It will take you about an hour to complete them. And that is because we don't want you to rush through it. We want you to take your time and read the consent forms, please. Don't rush. And then it will take about a half an hour for you to actually have your visit on Friday, the 18th, if you're able to do that, or Tuesday, the 12th. So if you get your consents and surveys done online ahead of time, that's going to be much more powerful, much faster for you. And I need to get back to stop sharing. There we go. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions that you might have, or turn it over to our host that welcomed us today. Thank you, Dr. O'Connell and Dr. Pollock. We're so glad that we got to be here today and happy to answer questions.
Thank you
Lori,
so much.
would it be possible to get the slide that has the QR code? Because I can share that as well via my student network. So
sure. Yes.
That'd be awesome. I appreciate you being here, both of you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. That was fascinating on both parts. And I think it's really exciting to have the opportunity to participate in something like this. We can all be a part of something. And we're looking forward to having you on campus too. Very exciting.
Thanks. We're really happy to be here.
So we'll, I guess, if no one else has questions or anything, we're running out of time, and we'll definitely post this recording, and we're going to share it amongst the students and faculty too, so that hopefully they can get a chance to see this.
Great.
Sounds great.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.